Morning. We're starting in the dark this morning. Early day out here. Just been watching the sunrise and sky change colors. Just a beautiful day. Beautiful way to start. A reminder of just how we cycle through this life. Every day it's happening. The sun comes, chases the moon away, lights our days, even though it's a pretty dark video to start with. We just continue to go through this life, through these daily cycles, and trying to get started today to get something put out there that's awkward, very awkward for me to talk about, but it's on my heart. And it's coming through and being reinforced again through a little bit of prayer. I'm going to talk a little bit more about my prayer and some of the things that I visualize and see during prayer. Some of the ways that I focus my attention during prayer. And makes me very uncomfortable trying to talk about this. But here we go. We'll give it a shot. So, several years ago, I'd say probably 10, 11, maybe 12 years ago, when I first started getting an inkling that I needed to reconnect, that I was missing my spiritual connection and looking for a way back, looking for what really is out there. I started meditating, and I learned a form of meditation where you start off getting quiet, getting centered, focusing on your body from the very lowest parts up through your body, what you would think of as activating chakras, if you've ever done that in meditation or heard about that. So I would do that for a few minutes, sort of focus internally, light up this internal structure of the spiritual body. If you've been watching and you're a Christian or a person of faith, that's probably sounds very, very different than how you pray. That's definitely very different than how I prayed growing up. But through that process of just a minute or two of doing that, I would be able to slow down the monkey mind and get centered, get present, and get ready for a closer connection to that spiritual world. The next part of that process for me would be a zooming out. So I would, instead of just focusing on my internal spiritual body, I would try to separate and ascend and look at my physical and spiritual body from above, and then zoom out farther and farther until I was looking down on the earth and looking at the earth as its own spiritual body, its own consciousness, and realizing that I'm still in there, I'm still a part of it, but my consciousness and my presence here is a part of this greater thing that is the earth's being. And similar to how we as human beings, we personally are alive, but inside of us we have living organisms inside of us that help us function, help us process food, help us just continue to survive. We do that as our bodies, but everything that's in our bodies, everything we put in our bodies, everything we cycle through our bodies, from every inhale and every exhale to every bit of food and water we put in our mouth. Similar in that way, how we are a living organism that is doing this. I would look down on the earth and see the earth in the same way, and try to put myself into that picture in my mind and remind myself of this greater consciousness that is the earth, that my spiritual body and my physical body are just a part of that makeup. After recognizing that, then I would pull myself farther away, and try to pull myself out of the material completely, and try to stop focusing on body, earth, all of these material things, and go to my sanctuary, my happy place, if you want to call it that, my spiritual sanctuary. I would, over time, I constructed this image of what is my sanctuary and prayer, and it's a church, it's a cathedral. It's really hard to describe this cathedral, but from the outside it looks beautiful, but a little broken. And you go in the main doors of the cathedral when I would do that, and I would enter into that space. The main area with high lofted ceilings, Gothic style, old cathedral. No pews, very little ornamentation, very little decoration, almost like it's in a state of ruin. There was a altar area near the far end, and sometimes when I was in prayer, that would be the place I would go to, and I would settle into that spot and then pray. There was also an area off to the side that over time I realized I was more comfortable in when I was praying. That area had really two sections. There was a back section with rows with pews, and in front of the pews there was a flat but slightly slanted, almost like a dais that went completely across this whole area of pews. And there was always information on it, almost like it was like a computer screen, and there were controls, and there was information being processed there. I never spent any time trying to use that operating area or look at that screen and try to receive information, but it was there. And that screen separated the third main section, which was sort of if you walk in the front door, you had the major part of the cathedral over here. You had this sort of seating area here, and then in front of that seating area, the wall was missing. That part was definitely in ruins. It was broken, and on the other side of that wall was a completely open view of, I don't know, it would maybe be what you would see if you were sitting on top of a mountain and looking out at sky and earth, but the difference between the land and the sky, it was all blended. It was very ethereal. It was very spiritual, almost like what you would think of as heaven. I would sit on the very, very edge of that area, still inside the church, inside of the broken walls, but directing my attention out into that space. And that became where I would settle in to that sanctuary area and pray. I've spent many, many, many hours in prayer in that space when I'm praying. And that process of getting close to my spiritual self first, recognizing my connection to this place, and then actively and through a process of meditation and mental direction, attention, clarity, I would remove myself from this space, go to that space, and connect with God there. So for me, that was a major change in the way I prayed. But it was the first time, again, this was 10, 12 years ago. It was the first time in probably 10 or 15 years, whenever I started doing that, it was the first time I could feel something again when it came to that spiritual world. I was able to reconnect. And I realize now, looking back at that, and also just looking at my current practice when it comes to prayer and meditation, that by doing that process, I was able to get my mind, my heart, my consciousness, my spiritual self far enough away from my day-to-day material monkey mind side of things, that other part of me would be quiet enough that I could commune with the spiritual side. And I've not given that process of getting my mind right and my heart right during prayer. I haven't done that enough lately, and I've been reminded of that. And it's definitely one of those things that's on my spiritual to-do list to work on with God's help. So I just wanted to put that out there, just so I know I could get out into the world, get into a more real place. That whole process, the last 7-8 minutes of explanation, has been something that's been very, very private, and always shared that with a few people. But it certainly has, in my life, changed my status as far as connected versus disconnected from the spiritual world. So I would encourage people to find their version of that in prayer. If you've been praying for a long time, you've got a prayer practice that works, and you get connected to God, and you're feeling like your prayers and your meditation are working, whatever working is to you, and keep doing what's working. But I know there are a lot of people who don't think what they are doing is working. So if you're a person of faith, you don't have to change your theology or adopt some Eastern mystic practice of meditation. You do your version of getting quiet, getting close, separating from the material, and focusing on what you are spiritually, what is your soul, finding your soul and your spirit, and then reaching out to the great spirit, the universal consciousness, the creator, the God that you pray to. And just give that a chance. Find your own spirit body and your own soul first, and reach out from that place. I think you may be surprised just how warm the welcome is whenever you do that. I do think we try to enter into prayerful and meditative states sometimes when we're feeling overwhelmed by the world, when the material and the worldly is bearing down on us. So when we try to move into that state of speaking with the Great Spirit, if you can recognize that great spirit within you, that part of God that resides within you. It's a very Jesus-focused teaching. You can read how Jesus describes this and how his Father is within him and he is within the Father, and how he teaches his disciples to think that way and feel that way. And by making that transition and adopting that mindset, not as an arrogant, holier than thou person, but as a humble believer that understands you are a part of the body and mind of God. That's how you connect with God, is by recognizing God's presence outside of you, inside of you, your presence inside of God. You can find a practice that helps you get in that mindset and quiet the world, quiet your mind, part of your brain that is constantly operating, trying to figure out what has to happen next to survive all of this chaos out here. You can separate from that part of your mind and find that spiritual body. The great spirit on the other side is just hanging out, waiting for you to show up. And sometimes it's going to feel like a dialogue, where you're bringing what you need to bring into that, and you're the great Father, great Spirit, has some help and support for you when you do that. It's a lot easier to feel it if you can make the rest of this thing that is you, if you can make that take a back seat and get quiet for a while and let this other side of you have its time with God. It can feel intimate. It can feel personal. And I believe that's how it's supposed to feel. So, some of my thoughts on prayer and connection. Hopefully that doesn't scare anybody off out there, but that's me. This is me. This is how I do it. Hope it helps. If it does, do all the things, please. Like it, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Let's engage. Let's talk. Let's share. Let's spread. And as always, I encourage you, if you have a way of doing it that works for you, speak about it. Share it. Share it with the people you love. Share it with strangers. Share it on a video. Start doing anything you can to amplify the message and bring more light into this world.